I'm Frank Trigg. This is MMA Oddsbreaker. That is Scott Jorgensen, who now is fighting unknown fighter. That's what it says. You have an unknown fighter. Is that how is it to train for an unknown fighter? Like, what do you do? Like, what do you look at?
I look at it like this. It's like college wrestling all over again. You go into every college tournament, your opponents change every single match. You might be facing someone you know real well. You might just be facing somebody that, is on the rise or something, so you never know. So it doesn't change too much for me. I've prepared to fight. I've prepared to fight both in Orthodox and Southpaw because this is the third opponent we've been through on this fight. It started with Ian McCall. He got hurt. Dodson's now hurt. And so, it is what it is, and I don't care. It's a
Have
fight.
they? You probably can't say yet. Have they announced the new guy yet? Have they told you who the new opponent is? Or are you still in the middle of trying to figure it out?
All over Twitter. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look. The UFC hasn't officially said anything. I know who it is, but it's
Yeah.
all over Twitter. Everybody knows Makovsky is the named opponent on Junkie and everywhere. So, I mean, we're not supposed to say anything until the UFC releases it. And I try and stick. I'm a company man. I try and stick to the rules. So.
It's smart because
But
if you're not a company man, you get let go for the littlest things. You could win a fight, they let you go. So it's smart to be a
oh
company
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm busy, but it is that's who it is. So I mean, we'll get out there, we'll fight, we'll do our thing, and I'll move on to the next one.
Well, that's kind of a crappy thing because they put you against a tough opponent in Uriah Faber your last time out, and then they kind of match you up with a tough guy again, and then that guy gets hurt. They match up with another tough guy. That guy gets hurt. Now they match up, and it's like you're 10 days away from the fight at the time that we're doing this interview. So now there's really no time left to train for a different opponent. There's no time to change anything up. You got to just kind of stick within yourself. Stress wise, how is it for you right now?
I'm not stressed. I'm ready. Guy, Chris Owens real well.
Yeah.
Chris taught me all through college. You're prepared for anything. Chris Owens and Greg Randall, my college coaches, that was our motto. Going through college, it was, they'd call you up at 8:00 at night and say, "Hey, surprise practice, 9:00, be here." For a drill practice, nothing hard, but it was just to keep us mentally ready to be, whatever's going to be thrown at us. It wasn't a shock, and so, this isn't the first time I've had an opponent change, and this is not the closest I've had an opponent change to a fight. So it's just literally, I'm prepared for anything. I'm ready to fight. I'm confident. The stress level is 0 to nothing. So it's just another day at the office. It's part of the sport.
So the only thing you really have to worry about is making weight, and your weight's good.
I made 133, man. I made 133, a weight I haven't hit since college. Today, after taking my time to get my weight to where I was. That's why I haven't fought. I didn't push Sean Shelby for a fight. He knew I was going down. We started this process kind of back in July, and it was a slow process. But about September, it took me about 6 to 8 weeks to get my weight comfortable where I knew I could make 125. And then I said, I started pushing Shelby for a fight. The fact that I'm coming down from 135 as one of the top contenders, they didn't want to just stick me with anybody. So they wanted to match up with McCall and then Dodson. And so, the story there. But, so I hired a sports physiology company called Phase 4. Mm-hmm. And they did everything from a VO2 max to build my training program, like my strength and conditioning, and then a resting metabolism rate, which built my diet. They took a look at how my body burns calories, not just, this is the most scientific way to do things. And it's so interesting. You could do a whole nother interview with Bob, who runs Phase 4. It's phenomenal. Bob's a wrestler. You may know him. He knows like Daryl Christian. He's buddies with Joe Warren. That's how we got hooked up with him, was Daryl Christian. And, he's a genius. He took my training program and looked at it, and he took my diet, what I was eating, and what my results were for my resting metabolism rate test, my VO2 max, and they talked to my coach, Mark Montoya, and said, okay, what does he need to be doing this week? Like, what does he do in a week of training? And then, so, like, typically in the past, I was training probably close to, like, 18 hours a week, training, a couple times a day. They took and broke it down, and when I first got this thing, I panicked because it was a week, and it was like, okay, go on and run. My run was slow, and at the first, it's all built to build you to a peaking level with your heart rates. And, they were slow runs, like my fat burning zones, to help me start getting that weight down. And I had the diet, and they built it towards where I was in my fat burning, zones. And for the first few weeks, it was slow runs, drilling a lot, not a lot of sparring. I mean, sparring like at 50% for 3 rounds, and then a cool down. And I was just like panicking. And then I watched, as I got into camp, it started kind of fluctuating. Things started picking up to where I was going the level that I need to. But I mean, I was still only training 1 time a day, and I was done within an hour and a half. I'm literally like, the longest workouts I had in this whole 9-week camp was 125 minutes. And I know that because each week they would send me my training regimen that basically said, okay, you got a run today, you got pads, you're done. And it's all specific heart rate. So everything I've done for the last, even going back to when I first started training under them was back in July, I've been doing with a heart rate monitor, sparring, grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, running. Everything I do is heart rate monitor. And they train you like a distance athlete to perform for the given time that I need to at the highest possible peak level I can. And it's paid off, man. I just ran 2.25 miles in 15 minutes, which is probably faster than I've ever done it in college. And that was without my heart rate hitting above 180, I think was what was on my monitor as my max. So
wow, really?
Yeah.
If I ran that in 15 minutes, I'd blow the monitor up. Like it'd be like 225, 230. Like I'd be dead. Like my heart would give out. There's no way I could.
Dude, as I started running, I was doing slow runs, and I'm like, I could do this for days. And then as they started picking me up, because of the way my body progressed and was trained, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to hit these max heart rates that they're going to want me to hit when I hit later in camp, to where, like, literally, I mean, I was on a full sprint for 15 minutes and got done, went straight in and grappled hard for 25 minutes and was done for the day.
Jeez, so they're giving you a lot more rest. You have a ton more time to rest and get errands done and do laundry and get your bank stuff done and not have to, like, because during training camp, it's like most fighters got to have somebody else to handle the household day-to-day stuff because there's no time between travel back and forth to practice, working out twice a day for an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. You're looking at a 6-hour day between travel time, and then you still have to rehab if you have an injury, or whatever. There's no time. But for you, you're saying like an hour and a half, I'm done. I'm out of there. Like my day's done in an hour and a half. And even if you have a half-hour drive time to get there and a half-hour drive time to get back, you're still looking at only 2.5 hours of your day. That's all day still. You have to get laundry done. That's all day still to cook meals.
I got plenty of time, So it makes time for my son, and he just finished up his folk style season. So, I just run him to practice. I get my workouts done, and everything else is like take care of some gym stuff. Take care of a few of the guys that did the MMA draft that we're managing now through MMA Incorporated. So helping those guys get going and helping them with some techniques and things like that. Pick my son up, hang out with him. Do our thing with wrestling, get home, eat, relax, rest. They even give me directions. Like if my heart rate spiked when I wake up in the morning above my natural heartbeat, which is like 45 when I tested, if I'm sitting at like 50s, in the mid 50s, take the day off and just relax, but pull my body out of that recovery zone, give it the time it needs, and then come back and hit it, pick up the plan where we left off. And, I've never felt in better shape. I've never felt, better physically, like competitively wise. Like I'm able to go into practice, I get it all done, and it's all clicking. They built in so much time where my hard high rates are, so controlled that they built enough time in that I'm drilling more than I've ever drilled in my life.
Oh wow!
So
it's like being back in college practice again, where you can only go live so much before your bodies get beat up and broken down. You spend the whole preseason, it's an hour and a half of drilling, just drilling. Okay, a couple of hard goes and get out. And you're like, oh, this sucks. This is horrible. I can't stand this. But then by mid-season, you're like, thank God all I did was drill, because now it's just I'm exhausted, but my head just says go. My head just says do this. Just shoot a high crotch, step to the side. That's all I'm thinking about. And it sounds like now fight-wise, you're doing the exact same thing.
Totally. And, beyond that, like you go through it, like most fighters know, you go through an 8-week training camp and you're grinding hard every day. And before, like this is pre-phase 4 to now. And pre-phase 4, my idea of training was a college style. Like we went into Boise State every day. We grinded hard all season long, done. And so that's how I fought. Like, I didn't like running, and I told myself, well, I'm done with college, man. I'll get in shape doing, what I need to be doing. So I sparred a lot. I didn't, which took away a lot of drill time, because you can't sit there and spar hard for, 3 hours a day or go hard for 2-3 hours a day and then expect to drill.
Right.
So, I was sparring hard all the time to get in shape. And I was always in phenomenal shape. There's never been a guy that I've ever fought that's been in better shape than me, and I'll tell you that. And I think watching my fights, you'll see that. Mm-hmm. And I grinded hard. And by the end of that 6, 7, 8 weeks, man, I just wanted to be done. I just needed that break. Right now, like, I'm literally salivating, like, to fight. Like, they took and made me spar last week at 50%, would not let me go to my full zone, and all I could want, like, it was hard. Because now all I want to do is compete. Like, I've done the work, hungry as I've ever been, and now I just want to sink my fist into somebody.
Wow, and we've talked quite a bit, in interviews, but also off, and this is probably the most excited I've seen you in probably 3 years. Like, you're ramped up.
Oh, I'm completely rejuvenated. It took me about 2 weeks to get through their program, and it started, I was drilling more, and I started loving what I was doing again. Because now I'm not just worried about going in, warm up, boom, we're sparring hard, we're wrestling hard, we're grappling hard. Now I'm going in, and, okay, we got, my heart rate, my drilling heart rate zone is from 114 to 120. And it's a small zone to what people say, but I mean, it's literally, it's a comfortable pace. Like, it's a learning zone. Mm-hmm. It's me just, I'm hitting a shot. I'm working with Andrew Hochstrasser, one of the top kids in the nation. And so Andrew works with me, like, all my wrestling. So we'll go in and we'll drill, and he's, we're picking things apart. Like, I need to change this. I'm stopping on my knees. I need to drive through. And so striking, like, learning new combos and being able to put it all together without having to jumble it all together. And go into sparring and go, what? Like a big rush. Like, I'm able to think, I'm clear, and it's rejuvenating me, man. I love what I do now. Like,
that's great. I got to ask you, because I see the remote in front of you. Are you actually doing this Skype phone call from your Xbox One? Is that what you're doing? I don't like you anymore.
Dude, this thing's amazing.
Why didn't you get me one? Why didn't you buy me one? I don't understand what your gig is. Like, I thought you and I were boys. Like, how come you didn't get me one of those?
This thing's awesome. I got it. I fought Faber. I was bummed, and usually, like, after one fight, my fiance and she lets me go get one present for myself. I bust my butt, go get a present. So they, like, right after the Faber fight, they had released the pre-release date, the pre-sale. So I went and bought the day one edition and picked it up. And man, like, I learned, like, it controls your TV. It's all voice activated. Like, I could end this Skype call right now by telling the Xbox to do it. So.
That's great. I'm a little jealous. So we'll. That's the next thing I think I'm going to have to get for the house too. Plus, too, my kids are 5 and 3 that come over here all the time. So it's a situation too now that video games. It's a reality of life now. It's not like my age group. We're supposed to be outside playing, and then we got video games as a treat. Now it's like video games is part of running smartphones and running tablets and running all that stuff as part of what kids do. They kind of got to be on video games because they're going to have to figure out how to do it. Any job they have in the future, if they're 3 and 5. Having a job in 20 years from now, it's going to be all tech. It's going to be all they got to figure out what they're going to do. So
my son, he got my the UFC gave his iPads a couple of years ago. So I already had one, so we gave it to him as a Christmas present. And so if he knew my iTunes password, I'd be broke.
Right? I mean,
so he's got that. He knows how all that works. He's got his games and certain things he likes to do. He's got his buddies come over.
Yeah.
So when the Xbox One came out, he's like, "What are you doing with that Xbox 360?" So he snatched that up, and he's like, "Okay, this is mine."
Yeah.
So but I mean, the kid, I'll give him whatever he wants. He busts his buddy, wrestles for Ivan Ivanov.
Oh, really?
Ivan Delchev.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, you know those guys.
Yeah.
Those guys, Bulgarian wrestling, they don't play around. They'll go in, they run a strength and conditioning program for these kids, and he busts his butt. 6 hours a week in wrestling practice with Coach Delchev. So
it's old Soviet school style. Like they're those Bulgarians that have that mentality. Like, lift this style, wrestle this style, win this way. That's it. This is the formula. We built it. It's going to happen.
Those kids start goofing off, and they'll get after them. It's like watching these little miniature college kids get an education. I sit in there and I'm like, wow, and it's crazy to sit and watch him be able to wrestle these coaches that I looked up to in college. I'm like, man, I wish I had an opportunity to train with those guys. And now he's doing it at the age of 7, going on 8, and he's all he's doing, he finished third at state last year. He's looking forward to winning state this year. He's got his goals. He wants to win state and then go win regionals. So
Good for him. How old is he?
going on 8.
Okay. Tough. That's perfect age to be at it. Perfect age to be to loving it, and hopefully he sticks with it. Because I don't care what anybody says. You want to be a great MMA fighter. The only way to do it is by being a good wrestler. There's not a great MMA fighter out there that can't wrestle. Not a one.
Yeah, I push him a little bit, but it's mostly like, hey, do you want to do a tournament this weekend? You know, what's the plan for this week? And he's, you know, midway through season, like, hey, I want to build my training program because I got like my new plan, and I was talking to somebody about it at the gym, and he's like, hey, I want to build my schedule. I'm like, all right, we can do that. Why do you want to do it? And he's like, so I know what I'm doing. I'm like, okay.
Good.
It's you know, he's motivated. I don't push him. I've seen too many kids, and you've seen it, like high school kids coming out, burn out, first year of college, they could have, you know, went out there and won a national championship, and they're, you know, flunked out because they went partying.
Burnt out. They're, you know, by the junior year, they've quit. You know.
Yeah, I won't do that.
Yeah. All right, Scott. Thanks for coming on here, MMA Oddsbreaker. I appreciate it. You know, have fun. It's gonna be a good. You're selling in a great place, so you're gonna have a good fight. I can't wait to watch it.
No, I'm excited, man. First time I've been to 125 in since I was 17, man. It was like almost 15 years ago. So
yeah, but you're only 18 now, so it's not that long ago.
That's right.
All right, bud. I'll talk to you later on.